what we talked about in the previous video about these ancient resurrection myths and how we can explain them in context with the fallen history, we'll just have to save that for another video series. It's so important that I want to take the time to lay it fully all out so that you can understand it. But I'm not sure if I'll ever have time to get to that at this point. We'll just have to see. Right now, let's bring it back into focus here about this Nekbet Wajet being the two ladies of Zechariah 5 lifting up this ephah with the woman in it, aka Ishtar, Israel, these royal children of this Egyptian descendancy on their mother's side through this Ephraimite ideology, this Ephraimite philosophy that is basically being, fulfilled as these mystery religions, these modern day secret societies, which are now, in control of the nations of the world. And you can see that through their own assemblage, okay? It's basically being advertised. All right, if we look at Hosea, I'm going to read something here from chapter 10. It's going to be verse 8, the book of Hosea. The high places also of Avon, the sin of Israel, shall be destroyed. The thorn and the thistle shall come up on their altars, and they shall say to the mountains, cover us, and to the hills, fall on us. Now, this is that future proclamation of Hosea for what's going to take place with Israel, aka Samaria, aka Ephraim, aka these nations of the world, as they commit this sacrifice. Notice it says the high places also of Avon. All right, remember in Isaiah chapter 34, describing that blood sacrifice. And then it starts describing, and the unicorns and the bulls and the bullocks shall come down with them. Where are they coming down from? Okay, after this sacrifice, by their own plans. Well, they're coming down from Shinar. And then in Rev.12, her feet are on the moon. Okay, and this is where this green pasture is supposed to be. This field of dreams where the supposed wheat goes to. They're coming down from the moon. So the high places also of Avon, the high places of Avon. Now, Avon is a root for avian, which means birds, in which Ishtar is considered a bird of heaven. And then Isaiah 34 describes all of these birds of heaven that come down now to possess this Babylon. And it's basically what we said. They plan on destroying the present day system, even the very system of our own dominion that's been given to us, that's being really covered up by all this materialism. And they plan on possessing now these lands for themselves. So the high places also of Avon is the moon. And the sin of Israel shall be destroyed. Basically, the sin of Israel. Now, whose sin? Sin is the Babylonian moon god. The high places also of Avon, the sin of Israel, shall be destroyed. That's the moon. Sin is the Babylonian moon god. It is this high place, this supposed refuge for the eagle, aka vulture, in its high nest. Now, to show you a little bit of what I'm talking about, how it's going to connect to this Egyptian mysticism, let's take a look at this and what this Avon really means. Hebrew noun meaning wickedness. Now, we have to go to Zechariah chapter 5, right? We have to go to Zechariah chapter 5, and it describes that wickedness that was cast in with a woman in the ephah. All right, and then that's in relationship to sin, their moon god, which further deeper into the assemblages will relate all the way back to Enki, who is the wickedness that is thrown in the ephah. Hebrew noun meaning wickedness. used in place names to indicate Israel's understanding of the place as site of idol worship. Now, in Revelation chapter 12, it describes that they're going to bear this child. Now, of course, they worship this child if it's their Messiah. So it's their idol. It's that calf of Samaria, which is considered idol worship, right? So if they're going to be fed in a twofold manner with this water and their pastures that they've been prepared to have there, and then at the same time his doctrine, well, that's the idol worship that's taken place. So this moon, this high place of Avon, where this wickedness is, it's where they're having this idol worship that is quoted in Rev.12. All right? So it says referred to On or Heliopolis. Well, isn't that just absolutely amazing? Because remember, Ephraim's mother is the daughter of the high priest of On, Heliopolis in Egypt. And are we not talking about Egyptian assemblages that are ushering them to this place on the moon that is connected to temples, even a temple body that's being made, and then even a temple place of worship for them? Yeah, we are. So it says referred to On or Heliopolis in Egypt, referred to major worship centers of Israel such as Bethel and Dan, referred to a valley, perhaps one in place of popularly known names such as Beth Haven for Bethel. So you should be able to see what Hosea is describing as what Zechariah is describing, and then exactly what Revelation 12 is describing. Rev 12 gives it to us. It says that their feet is on the moon, and I need you to see that also so that you can see the rest of this. Okay, now let us go here and see where we get vulture and eagle coming together. This is going to be the Holman Bible Dictionary, and what we have looked up is going to be birds, and let's start with eagle. The term eagle refers to several large birds of prey active in the daytime rather than at night. The Hebrew term translated eagle, nesher, also sometimes is translated vulture. Okay, so eagle, nesher is translated as vulture. Now we'll see that in Hosea it is, just as we're talking about here. So let us go ahead and read a few more of these clips here. In the ancient world, the eagle or vulture often was associated with deity. The prophets and apocalyptists chose this bird to play a figurative or symbolic role in their writings. Now that's exactly right. We've seen that these bird symbols of eagle and vulture have been chose to play a figurative part to convey what this is really all about. So eagle and vulture, the same thing. Vulture, both carrion vulture and vulture are listed separately in the unclean bird lists. The term vulture refers to several different birds of prey. The English word vulture is used to translate several different Hebrew terms. The Bible does not permit a positive identification of the types of vultures known during the biblical period, in contrast to eagles and hawks, which usually kill living prey. Vultures feed on dead animals. Now you have to go back to Revelation, where it describes these birds of heaven that are coming down to feed on these dead bodies. Now that's all figurative once again, but it's those bodies that were killed during that sacrifice. It becomes the very spoils of their victory, which is symbolized like we saw with Nike, the goddess of victory. Now that further is going to open up to Isaiah chapter 34, where those very same birds of heaven of Rev 12 that are feeding on the bodies are now possessing the land. So if we look here, the Hebrew term nesher, sometimes translated eagle, is translated vulture in Hosea's threat to Israel. Now, eagle, very important, because now, in Revelation chapter 12, it is describing the woman being lifted up on these two wings of an eagle. Now, you can see that the eagle can be vulture in a figurative symbolage of these vultures that are going to be associated with this symbol here, Nekbet and Wadjet. But what's also interesting is that the term eagle wing in Rev 12 is implied to eagle more specifically, which is interesting. And then Zechariah 5 gives us the association of the two ladies, and then associates the symbolage of the two ladies with the stork wings. And that's where we're going to see here in just a moment how this symbol here, these deities, are all about the protection of newborns, royal newborns. That's where the stork wings come in. But my point is, in Rev 12, the focus, if you read in the Strong's Concordance, is more specific on the eagle, which you should know in the symbolage of the United States is the symbol of the eagle. The symbolage for Rome is also the eagle. And then the symbolage for Nazi Germany is also the eagle. And then you got to think about Nazi Germany's technology with rockets was far more advanced. Now you have to start thinking about the current space-based technology that can bring people commercially to the moon. So if it's a commercial industry coming out of commercial Babylon, well, then we can see where the chain of events of this eagle technology that's quoted in Rev 12 with the two wings of a great eagle is going to be the technology of this space-based commercial flight that brings them from commercial Babylon to ecclesiastical Babylon, the land of Shinar, the moon. So we can see from Project Paperclip, when Nazi Germany was defeated, the United States absorbed all of their, rocket scientists. And then now we can see that eagle symbolism has portrayed itself throughout the technology as it was manifested directly from the prophecy in Revelation chapter 12. So the two wings of the eagle now are more or less portraying the technology, the eagle symbolism of these cultures in which this technology has been grown from. And then now we see it depicted as the Virgin Galactic, which is symbolage of the childbirth, and at the same time symbolage of the technology of these eagles. You have to see far, friends. You have to see really far. All right, so when we go back to Zach 5, it gives us a symbolage of further figurative depictions of the symbols now that are associated with the protection of childbirth, and then describes these ancient two ladies, Nekbet and Wadjet, of this Egyptian mysticism that concerns the protection of these royal descendants, and even the Pharaoh himself. That's what's so important, because in Zach 5 it describes the wickedness that was cast in amongst the lady. The lady is the remnant Israel, the supposed royal blood, and then wickedness is cast there. Well, that's the same thing that this vulture goddess is doing here. So if you know that vulture also means eagle, the whole thing is fully connected together. Now let me go ahead and do this. Now I'm going to read you the two descriptions of both Ishtar, the woman Israel. Okay, we know where its roots come from these Venus figurines that are early recordings of these daughters of men being chosen to birth this royal bloodline, right? Okay, don't forget here that it's already done. If I don't even say anything, I can show you the connection here. I can show you this bird of heaven, Ishtar. I can show you herself within her two hands holding up the shin ring, and then right here in the talons of this other bird of heaven, another figurative description of the same symbology, the same two shin rings. all right, which symbolizes infinity, eternity, otherwise immortality, that which they think they're going to be made into gods. Then, of course, this being thinks he's about to enter into a physical immortality. It's basically the same thing that the Ankh is, okay? But it's more specific, at least being used in this context, to this particular prophecy. We'll just leave it at that, because there's much more to say on that. All right, so you can see that now, right? All right, now I'm going to compare the two descriptions of the two ladies, Nekbet and Wadjet, from Zechariah 5, and then to the understanding of Israel, that woman, in Revelation 12. Let me first just start reading about Israel, Ishtar, that woman. Ishtar is the ancient Babylonian goddess of love and war. She is the Greek goddess Astarte, the Hebrew Ashtoreth, and the Sumerian Inanna. Because of her dual role of love and war, she has been worshipped as both a male and female deity. In ancient southern Arabia, she was worshipped as the male high god known as Ashtar. Her many titles include bringer of death and mother of all life. And then that's where we're going to flow back with Nekbet, because that's exactly what Nekbet means. It means the mother, the chief mother of all life. Ishtar's power is believed to be strongest during a full moon. Interesting. We've got all of these supermoons that are fulfilling themselves within the timing of Cancer. She is also depicted holding her breasts together or holding a cup. Listen to this. I just showed you the ancient idols of the past, where they were showing the earliest human daughters cupping their breasts together. And this is where I tell you that sacred cow symbolism comes from. The very same thing is depictive of Ishtar. There's ancient depictions of her cupping or holding her breasts together. It's the same thing. It evolves from the same place. Now, it also describes this Ishtar as holding a cup. Now, remember, we're talking about a second cup known as the millstone that's supposed to fall. Okay? And this second cup is being fully associated with the wrath and destruction that's coming from Israel. Israel is further being symbolized with the woman, and then the woman is being symbolized with the symbol Ishtar that represents where their supposed royalty came from this admixture of the DNA of the sons of God and the daughters of men. It's all there. She is also depicted holding her breasts together or holding a cup. As I said, the cup is coming from them. It's coming from the moon where they're going. Symbolic for some of the Holy Grail cup. Now, what's the Holy Grail cup supposed to be? It's supposed to be about royal lineage. It's what I'm telling you guys. She is also known as the creator of the evergreen tree. Google that, okay? And then realize in the movie Field of Dreams, if you view what I got on my playlist and you check my favorites, you'll see this Billboard movie cover for Field of Dreams. It's about corn in the movie, right? Supposedly, but really it's about the division of the wheat and the tares, taking the wheat to the moon. Notice that they put all these evergreens right on top of the symbol of the inverted triangle for woman, for birth, for Ishtar. There's all the evergreens. There's all the evergreens. Known as the creator of the evergreen tree. All right? And then let's look at something. The vision that I was given some time ago, over 20 years ago. We've got the moon. There's our little guy in the moon suit. There's the rocket, the flying roll, right? It's right there. And then look, right here, planted on the same land, we see these evergreen trees. And look, the exit door. Remember, vanish in the air, you'll never find them. But notice, it's damaged. Something happens. Just like Hosea said, the Spirit of Truth encoded the same information here. Notice that they're planted in a dry and thirsty place. And here's our little camel symbolism for carrying water there. And then we realize that their water is going to dry up. Unreal. Unreal, guys. So all that comes together now as we move forward here. She has been prayed to for defeating enemies and escaping danger. The destruction that they bring here, Revelation chapter 13, verse 13, they obviously got to go somewhere. I told you it's the military complex that's really under the ground, and there's bases waiting to come out. And then we know that that's really to mask and cover up the true identity of the locusts, because they're really coming from under the ground, the North Pole. So those two identities of their military complex and the locust are two separate things. Their military complex is going to be associated with the gray aliens. And as I said, they're going to try to pull the wool over your eyes, so to say. And the first thing that they're going to bring about after this destruction that they're going to want you to think are the locusts are going to be these gray aliens in conjunction with the United States military. Okay, the remnant of Obama's administration. But as I said, they all work together. So as the military is trying to put everybody into these FEMA camps, and then I guess you would envision people being terrorized by these beings with their technology that's working with them, then they're going to produce what they want you to believe are the real Elohim, which will be these Danites, the 13th judge of Israel, these Nordics, these blonde-haired, blue-eyed, tall ones that have really been living in a civilization underneath the ground. I'm telling you, it's a mirror, an overlay of the same symbols, the same figurations, so that you will be confused. But it's double. So realize the first ones that they bring after this destruction is to confuse you, to put you in fear, so that when the next ones they bring come, you're going to be relieved and think that those are the good. And then these good ones are going to present themselves as the judges, and then start condemning this wicked system. And at the same time, they're going to speak out against Jesus Christ. And then they will promote their king, Enki, as the true Lord. So prepare for that. So pray to for defeating enemies and escaping danger. Rev.12, Zach 5, about them escaping the danger that they bring upon the world themselves. She is known, Ishtar is known both as the daughter of Anu, that Sumerian chief deity, and Sin, the moon god of Babylon. It just depends on from which culture you're researching her. As I told you, she's not any one singular deity. She's a conglomeration of a philosophy that's grown out of the daughters of men being chosen for the sacred feminine birth process. And what was sacred to be birthed is their god Enki. So she is known as both the daughter of Anu. Well, Anu is really just figurative symbolism for Lucifer. And it says, and Sin, the moon god of Babylon. Well, we know that Sin, this moon god, represents double, this black, this white, this duality. So at the same time, it represents the chief, their light bringer, okay? And then it represents the prince of this light bringer, Enki, who has been sealed in this darkness under the world. So it's an overlay once again. She is often shown with the ears of corn or grain sprouting from her shoulders. Did you hear that? Ishtar is often shown with ears of corn. Now, what do we got in the movie Field of Dreams? It's all about a cornfield that I told you is really symbolage for wheat and the tare. And it is telling you that Ishtar, as you see the woman Rev.12 going to the moon, is telling you that she is depicted with ears of corn or grain sprouting from her shoulders. Google that. Google that and you'll see it's true. You hear that? Ishtar is depicted with corn and grain, and then it all comes together. Zechariah 5, the ephah is a measure of dry grain that connects us to the Field of Dreams code of the corn, which now connects you to the symbolages for Ishtar, the moon, the evergreen trees, everything. It's all there. It's all there. Her Egyptian titles evolved in this order: Mut, M-U-T, Nut, N-U-T, then Hathor, then Isis. More of her titles include Lady of the Heaven, queen of the heaven, ruler of the heaven, goddess of the moon, the shining one, which means sin, of which Mount Sinai is named after, torch of heaven and earth. Now you got to think the Liberty statue. Think about the Statue of Liberty, which is symbolage of her holding that torch up in just another symbolic representation. Ishtar's title includes torch of heaven and earth, the mother of all deities, great mother, the opener of the womb. All of the same things we're talking about. The birthing, the woman in travail, everything from Hosea, the great mother, where we get this depiction from Mu comes from. Mu as it involves to Mama, Lady of Sorrows. Remember as the sorrows of a woman in travail, goddess of the mysteries of the underworld. Who's the mystery of the underworld? Well, that's Enki, okay? And she is goddess of this great work to bring him about. Her chief title is the Great Cow. Get that? And then Hosea is describing the bringing of this golden calf of Samaria. Well, he'd have to be birthed out from a great cow, would he not? She is shown holding the earliest versions of the twin serpent Caduceus. Ishtar is shown holding the earliest depictions of the Caduceus, and that's going to be the two serpents coming up that rod of Hermes, but in representation of the spinal column. But also it represents the admixture of the DNA of the daughters of men with these fallen sons of God, uniting these two serpent descendancies, one that would be born through the lineage of man, Jashin, he establishes, and then one that was given to it from the lineage of the serpent kings themselves, Boaz. And then that's symbolized, of course, in the two columns of Solomon's temple. So she is shown holding the earliest versions of the twin serpent Caduceus? Of course, because that's where it starts. The twisting of the DNA together. Of course, the serpent doctrine, even the very same staff that Moses was ordered to lift up in the wilderness. That's symbolage of Enki. Okay? She is also been considered to be the one to open up the seven gates, i.e. chakras. Now I told you that stems back from the book of Enoch that describes that these fallen ones had given to these women a reprobate mystery, and it was the knowledge of these chakras, of which was only being used so that the serpent could finally invade the temple house of man. And that's what's been happening. And then you see the serpent is making the climb up many of these people's spines at this moment. So when it describes her saying opening the seven gates, seven chakras, well, that's the seven seals of Revelation. Okay? And then if you know about the sixth seal, that once the sixth seal is broke, then we have this chaos, and that's the representation of the millstone fallen. As I told you, it's about breaking a seal so it can bring their being in. And then this would open up with Revelation describing this being as being the seventh and also the eighth. And I'll have to just explain that at another time, but Enki is definitely related to this number 8 as well as the number 40. So as she is to open the seven gate chakras, you know that I've told you that there's been 7 world ages which have not yet fully culminized. The seventh has not yet, the seventh judgment has not yet taken place. And you just have to understand that there's going to be 2 judgments by fire, as we saw in the parable of the tares. But to get my drift on what I'm saying with the chakras being timed as world ages, at each one of these world ages, that's just roughly at about 5,100 years, there's a judgment that ensues. And in a sense, it's an opening of a gate to where they can keep escalating society from one age to the next, raising the ego vibration of the peoples to accept the doctrine of ye are gods, to where when they finally get to this last stage, the people themselves are born into an environment that has completely promoted this. Everything about the music industry, especially with rap, everything about what we see in their coded propagandas is about getting man to lift his ego up to believe he is some form of deity, a deity form that's over that of the creator, in which these people are no creator gods. So long story short, her being depicted as opening these 7 gates is also symbolages for the destructions that take place at the end of these world ages, of which we're in right now. Okay, and then that would go with the serpent that is considered by Isaiah as that piercing serpent. And then you know about how the crown chakra is achieved, which is color purple, symbol for royalty, that the serpent must pierce that's the basic representation of the millstone, as it is going to open up what they believe as their coming golden age. All right, so those are the depictions of Ishtar, and we could say so much more about her opening the 7 gates as it's timed with the 7 chakras that now magnify themselves as the 7 world ages, and I plan on doing another video on that if I can get to it, so just have some patience. Now let's read about Nekhbet and Wadjet. This assemblage is of 2 parts. What I'm showing you now is just one part of it. Basically, the leader of the assemblage, Nekhbet, which is the personification of Upper Egypt. Now, her sister, who is considered Wadjet, is the representation or the patron goddess of Lower Egypt. In other words, when these 2 gods are brought together, it represents opposites of polarities once again. Okay? It represents bringing together the 2 portions of heaven and earth. And we know that Enki is considered this god of the earth. And then now we see Ishtar is further being depicted as this goddess of heaven. So we're bringing an upper and a lower region together. Well, that's the same unification of Nekhbet and Wadjet. Furthermore, they have 2 crowns of red and white. One wears a red crown, the other wears a white crown. Well, guess what? Those just so happen to be the 2 colors of northern Israel, which is red and white. Now let's think about the North Pole with Santa Claus, okay, with all this materialism that is being fostered there, right? And then what's Santa Claus's colors? Red and white. And so many people easily equate Santa Claus with Satan Claus, and you rightly should. The symbols overlay. So we can see, because Ephraim now is of northern Israel and his descendancy comes directly out of Egypt, it's easy to see why he has chose the colors of red and white to reflect his royal descendancy, because it's the colors of the very same patron goddesses that protect royal descendants. That's why Israel's color is red and white. All right? And then you can see some people have changed their avatars to now even reflect this red and white color. All right? So, what you're looking at is assemblage of Nekhbet itself. And Wadjet represents the cobra. So we see the cobra and the vulture, or the cobra and the eagle, because you know they're interchangeable. Let's read here. Nekhbet, vulture. Wadjet, cobra goddess. Nekhbet is the patron of Upper Egypt, depicted as an Egyptian white vulture. Very important, because I told you if you relate this with the Nazis, Aryanism, Roman, Aryanism, Quetzalcoatl, tall, pale-skinned god, Pleiades, tall, pale-skinned gods, this is an Aryan deception. And you guys, check my skin tone out. I would be known as what's called Caucasian, but I'm not a racist. If the truth is that there is some sort of Caucasian racist takeover that is built upon some corrupted doctrine of the serpent, I don't have no problem speaking out against it, because I'm brother to everyone, to all colors. You should know that within the spectrum of light, all colors are found therein. All colors combined create the spectrum of light. Okay? So they've taught you guys to believe in some sort of separation when the light ray passes through the prism, just like on the album The Dark Side of the Moon with Pink Floyd, right? Isn't that interesting? And I don't know if that's the exact album, The Dark Side of the Moon, but you know the album cover or the famous picture of the light that passes in through the pyramid or the prism. Well, the prism represents the materialism. So once this light is subjected to the materialism and these people become blinded, well, then they recognize only the separation of the colors of light, not the harmony of the colors of light. Therefore, racism is born. So just like in a modern day prison, what happens? The colors separate. All right? Because they're all blinded by these material doctrines, that even more so in a prison, they're the doctrines of beasts, because the behavior is like animals. Understand what I'm talking about. So depicted as the Egyptian white vulture. Now this would go back to Karnak, this same association with ancient Egypt. Karnak is considered the place of the Great White Brotherhood. The Great White Brotherhood, does that sound familiar? It sounds real familiar, because you can find these same titles within the Nazi doctrines, these same titles within the Klan doctrines. All of this is a huge, huge scam. And then, of course, they have scammed the other races of color to work for them also. And they're going to cast these guys out at the end. They really are. They're really only using you guys. I'm telling you, you got to see the bigger picture here. So Nekbet is also Egypt's oldest oracle, was the shrine of Nekbet, the original necropolis or city of the dead. Now, what is New York? We know that New York is Golgotha, if you've been watching my videos. And Golgotha is what? It's a necropolis. Golgotha literally means city of the dead. So Nekbet is associated with the dead. And then this is where we see the depiction of the vulture symbolism comes through. And as I told you, they represent this life being born from this death. And then we know that this is the fulfillment of these royal children being given this new life, this new world order, after they've committed this great murder. The priestesses of Nekbet were called Mu, M-U-U. All right, you hear that? The priestesses of Nekbet were called Mu. So here we have the picture of a vulture where we get the sound moo that comes from cow. And this is where I told you where we get moo moo that goes to mama. So the priestesses of Nekbet were called Moos, Moo, cow, mothers. Nekbet Wajet are called the two ladies. And you can see that in Zechariah 5. They are now depicted with the stork wings, which fulfills the priestesses of Nekbet as being these mothers. The stork wings are reflection of expectant mothers. Nekbet depicted often as a white vulture for purification, and we know that this millstone is supposed to purify these lands so that they can possess it. If you read Isaiah 34, it's only the unclean that come back to possess these lands. She is depicted clutching the shin ring, right, which evolved into the Ouroboros. And then you can see how that connects back with that serpent doctrine and everything that I've already revealed about it. The shin equals infinity, eternity, or immortality. And do you remember the breakdown that I did on Night of the Comet, where their god was being displayed as this Ankh Goldman? Now the Goldman would be the golden calf of Samaria, and then the Ankh is in reflection of eternity, immortality. In other words, a depiction of what we see here, that they are supposed to protect this eternal one that they believe is their king. Seen as the mother of the divine aspect of Pharaoh. Now here's where we get our major connection. This is why we see the depiction from REV.12 symbolized there in Zechariah 5. They're using that symbolage because they are trying to say that this is the protection of this divine Pharaoh, and to offer further protection is them bringing this millstone so that they can get away clean, so to say, and complete their work. So seen as the mother of the divine aspect of Pharaoh, that would be in Zechariah 5, that wickedness, that God particle that's thrown in with the ephah. So these two ladies are symbolized, that protection of that, why it's going to that journey of the land of Shinar. Nekhbet is known as the mother of mothers and the great white cow, the exact same thing that Ishtar is. Known as the great mother, Ishtar is also known as the great cow. Now you see Nekhbet is known as the great white cow. And you should realize that this being that will be produced as the Antichrist is going to be white. He's going to be white, just like Quetzalcoatl was depicted, the plumed serpent, tall and white. Now, you know that we're dealing with secret societies that deal with black and white, and now they've offered their ringer, just like Lady Gaga says, poker face, poker face. They're offering you their poker face. Obama's the poker face. All these rumors of wars are poker face. But I'm holding my guns. I know exactly the parameters for what is going to take place and how it's going to take place, and they're not going to get me to jump the gun. I'm not falling for the poker face. I know exactly what's going on. So she's known as the mother of mothers and the great white cow. Unreal. The vulture hieroglyph was a uniliteral sign used for words such as mother, prosperous, grandmother. I can think of somebody that used that coded symbolism in one of their song videos so long ago with another girl that they were talking back and forth to, which uses some particular symbols that reflect Lucifer. And I know you know who I'm talking to, the grandmother, and it had something to do with the blanket. I knew then what was being said, and that's how I first was alerted to this coded talk with a lot of them as they were talking between. But nonetheless, the vulture hieroglyph was the uniliteral sign used for words such as mother, prosperous, grandmother, and ruler. She is known to adopt children, Nekhbet. So if we see that Ephraim is to become a multitude of nations, other races of children from these nations are to be adopted in, but it's a slim pickings for the ones that they truly allow in. A lot of these people of these other nations in color who are thinking they're in with these guys, they're really not. They always stab you in the back at the end. Okay? She's known for adopting children. Nekhbet is also the goddess of heaven, aka the queen of heaven. Nekhbet, goddess of heaven, aka the queen of heaven, a perfect reflection for the Babylonian Ishtar. Her most important epitaph, the white one of Nehin, or Nekin, and that's her patron city, the white one. Incredible. So you better believe that this AC that comes down, as it's already symbolized with these Pleiadians, which you should already see symbolized as these tall, like Nordic-like beings, guys. The white one of Nekin. Number 15, related both to the sun and the moon. That's right. Goddess of childbirth. That's why this is being symbolized with the stork in Zechariah 5, goddess of childbirth. Nekhbet wearing the white crown, while Wadjet wearing the red crown. So Nekhbet is wearing the white crown, Wadjet wearing the red crown. Now we can break this further up as we did with the colors of northern Israel, red and white. We can relate this back to Dan being their colors associated with the north. But we can also relate this further between the symbolages of the crown with the cow and then the red being symbolages of the serpent. But that's a whole nother video. But Nekhbet wearing the white crown, Wadjet, symbolage for the cobra, wearing the red. Once again, northern Israel's colors. And you know, northern Israel, descendancy from Egypt. And then she is considered to help during royal childbirth. Interesting. I said that at exactly 44 minutes and 12 seconds. 44, 444. Incredible. Helps during royal childbirth. And you should understand 44, this is all about divide and conquer. This is all about bringing this in It's about bringing the two-dimensional qualities of good and evil, or upper and lower, black and white, material and spiritual. It's about them gaining their control. Helps during royal childbirth. Incredible. So now we know that Rev 12 obviously has a royal child, this woman in travail that's seeking to birth. And then Zechariah 5 tells you it's a wicked one, but puts it into perspectives with their symbolisms of the two ladies, Nekbet and Wajet, with the stork, showing you that they are using these symbols as a way to depict the protection and the help of birthing this royal child. And then number 19, she's finally depicted suckling the Pharaoh himself, in which he is born from this original plan that he concocted to produce himself into this world if he could tempt man to procreate with these fallen ones, to produce a suitable lineage, a suitable temple vessel for he himself to fulfill himself in. And it's come full circle. Full circle, has it not? That's right. So they have come to the end of the sevenfold times 70 generations grace period, where the Lord has not brought any railing accusation against them. But as they commit the final act and they try to destroy the very children of the Father himself, we see that this triggers some terrible events that will come back upon them. And I really hope they understand. I hope we all understand what we're really going to go through and what we're being asked to go through and overcome with our faith intact. I tell you guys, I know that the delusion is strong. It's even going to get stronger. There just really aren't people that really even want to understand Jesus Christ, even understand the wisdom of why the Creator has sought to fulfill himself in material form. People just don't care. You know, they're into video games and what the video games are revealing about the world and reality and history. BS, man. Wake up. Wake up and realize that that's all a product of their propaganda. It's their crap. It's their crap. So when Jesus tells you that the God of this world is fallen and that the material construct, the tabernacle of reality around you is going to fall with it, understand that every doctrine that you've pulled out of it is going to fall also. And only those that can truly see and that have had the patience of the saint, that have had the faith of the true children of God, and understand and hear the voice of the true shepherd and know that he is not angry, that he is not wrathful, that he is merciful, giving, kind, and ever ready to fulfill his promises to those that can receive them and that have the capacity to receive. So I hope you realize why I take so much time and go as far as I do and try to exhaust every means of my ability to convey to you what has already been revealed to me many years ago, just in my simple casual drawings, when I knew none of this, when I knew none of this. Basically, I just had feelings that were in me that were coming out as I sought to express them. And I was looking forward to the time that we're all in now, and I just was kind of inspired. An artist is somebody who brings what they feel and see in their inner world to the outside so that the rest can see it. This is what has always been in my inner understanding of how things were going to play out in the future that I find myself now. And I tell you, it's been right on target. It really has. Everything about this is to guarantee that at least I know what I've been given is true, which gives me more power of faith, inspiration to go forward as I'm ridiculed, slandered, and threatened with death for revealing these these truths to you. And they always tell you that reality is stranger than fiction, and I guess that would be true. I'll be back.